Now, a meeting of Parliament's Joint Committee on Finance and Energy to consider an amendment to the AGM Petroleum Agreement was on Thursday suspended following protests from the minority MPs who insisted they did not have copies of the necessary documents to enable them review the deal. The minority says a review of the deal will reduce Ghana's stake in the oil block from 43% to 18%. Former Energy Minister Kofi Boah says the deal is not in Ghana's interest.
We are expressing concern. We are expressing very serious concerns. Already what we are looking at is that the royalties, the additional interest, and the stake for Esploco, GMPC subsidiary, has completely been wiped out in this new amendment, the AGM amendment.
Take me through the figures.
Let me take you through the figures, and you should really look at it and get worried. The royalty is 10%. The amendment is 10%. The carried interest, obviously, we have a new law, the Act 919, which we passed, which now requires that the floor should be 15%. So the floor is 15%. But the additional interest has been cut. The old agreement in the AGM, it says 15%. This one, they are in this document we have, they are making it 3%. Remember that the only time you even trigger additional interest is when there has been a discovery. And Ghana can now exercise its right to buy more stake, to increase our stake. So what has informed this decision? To basically reduce our power to buy more stake from 15% to 3%. More worrying, Esploco in the old agreement had 24%. In this agreement,
Esploco is the local
the subsidiary of GMPC. It is a very strategic organization for GMPC. And you know, so technically Esploco, when they have it, is Ghana. The only reason we are bringing these companies is because we don't have the technology. So what we can do is to basically negotiate and have some good terms so we can have a little bit of a stake. How we can basically come and reduce an agreement that has already been signed from that to 18%.
And this agreement was signed by the NDC?
Of course, of course.
So why do you think they are doing this? Sometimes the justification is
we want the minister to come as we want a friendly business. We are friendly enough that in the old agreement we are giving them almost over 50% and we are taking 43%. Are we not friendly enough? Are we going to be friendly by slashing our take from 43 to 18%? There are questions there. And I think that we'll wait for the minister.
What role may ECA play in this going forward, this particular
I think that the immediate reading is the concerns I have are what I've raised. I want to wait for the minister to come and talk to the committee.
But chances are that ECA may take interest in this particular...
Let's listen to the minister.
And the minority will not support this agreement?
No, if it is what it is that I've explained, there's no way we can support it. We can never be on the side of big business against the ordinary Ghanaian. We can't. We will fight for Ghanaians.
Now, John Jinapor, who's a minority MP on the Energy Committee, insisted they will not support approval of the deal until all necessary documents are made available. But we have him joining us, joining Joseph Opoku-Gakpo with the very latest on the situation from Parliament. Hello, Joseph. So what's the very latest and what can you report?
And so the meeting of the joint committees on mines and energy as well as finance is still ongoing here in Parliament House as I speak. A number of the MPs are present, both on the finance committee, including the first deputy majority whip, Matthew Nyindam, and also chairman of that committee, as well as the minister for energy himself, John Peter Mawu, and some of his deputies. But a number of things are on the table. Just to give you a quick background, and then we'll be speaking to John Jinapor as well as Mreku Duka, who is the vice chairman of the Mines and Energy Committee. The indication is that back in 2018, a company called Petrica Holding AS, they acquired the shares of another company, AGM Petroleum, which is actually the firm that had signed a contract with the Ghana government to explore oil. And so there was the transfer as well around that time of the stakes of a company called HERS to ECA. And the interesting bit is that the company that had actually taken over, that's Petrica, has a subsidiary which is also has a holding in that. I'll share details of that briefly within a while. But John Jinapo, who is a member of the Energy Committee and also a member of the Finance Committee, is joining us. Earlier, we know the meeting was suspended to allow for you, the minority MPs, to get the various documents. What's the latest on that? What has been happening since the meeting reconvened about an hour ago?
Well, like I said, there was an attempt to railroad the whole system through. Eventually, we have brought the documents. These are bulky documents. But they insist that we take all those documents at this sitting. We have requested that we are given even today, just this night, to go and peruse them. But the majority members insist that we continue with that. We hold the view that this is a major decision we are making. In the petroleum sector, we are talking of billions of dollars. And so for Parliament to be rash to take that decision, I think is most unfortunate. And I thought that would have been given the leverage to go and read very well. Be that as it may, as you can tell, we are still in discussion, we are still in session, and I hold the view that this agreement is worse than the previous agreement. I hold the view that this agreement is a rip-off, and that if Parliament allows this agreement to go through in the form and manner in which the minister has presented it, it would inure to the benefit of the company, and it will be inimical to the benefit of the nation. I think that is a very bad thing.
The indication we're getting is that by close of day tomorrow, a report from the Joint Committee will have gone to the House for monetary approval before the House goes on. So what will you, the minority, do, even as you express concern that this bill is back to the House?
It would appear that the majority is bent on having their way. But I think that they should take the interest of the nation into consideration and not just look at their personal interest. We as members
of Parliament... Do you think people have personal interest in this?
If you have the interest of the states at stake, if you have the interest of Ghana at stake, you will not be rushing such a major agreement through. How can you give me documents this afternoon and expect that I conclude everything this afternoon? When we have raised serious issues, we've even asked for documentation. There's also a petition from a Ghanaian company, Medsongai, indicating that the whole agreement is bad and that their 2% stake has been consumed without their knowledge. It's a major thing. It's a major issue for us to consider.
Make us understand the correlation with ACA, with this agreement that has to do with AGM Petroleum Ghana. Break that down for us, because with all the controversy that ACA has been, we are linked to this also.
Well, it raised a lot of red flags. And we asked them what due diligence have you done, even on the current local counterpart known as Quad. They can't even tell us when Quad was incorporated as a company. They cannot tell us the financial level of Quad. Who are the people behind this company? We have to know as members of Parliament. We don't know.
You suspect government officials will be behind this.
So why are they hesitant to tell us who the beneficial owners are?
Right, so we would have to end that interview there and hopefully rectify the problem, the challenge with the audio challenge. We will bring back that interview or bring back Gatpo on the line immediately. We're able to rectify it. But staying in Parliament, former Power Minister Dr. Kwadwo Donko says warnings by GridCo staff the power outages will return soon vindicates the minority's claim that the sector is in crisis. He says the warning is a wake-up call on the public and CSOs to speak up in order to avoid a total collapse of the sector. Dr. Donko says government must pay the power transmitter.
It's not just GridCo. The whole power sector is financially distressed. I've said it over and over again. The sector is distressed. We put in the Energy Sector Levies Act to address that. It is not being used appropriately.
And your expectation will be that what, going forward, especially with the staff themselves now joining the agitation?
Well, my expectation is that the media will examine the issues more critically than they have done. The Ghanaian media takes snapshots and that is it. We need in-depth analysis, in-depth education and in-depth research.
They're actually warning of more outages soon unless the challenges are fixed. They are giving government, the GridCo staff are giving government a 2-week ultimatum, to ensure fresh capital injection and turn around things. Is that the way to go? More pressure even from staff,
Yeah. For Ghanaian society as a whole must take interest. I've been warning that the energy sector is in distress, in financial distress, but nothing is being done. I'm glad that the workers have also come out to reiterate the same issue. The power sector is in distress.
when we reduced tariffs to satisfy political interests, we were creating a difficulty for the sector, and it's coming back to hit us.
Right, police in Accra have arrested a soldier and a police officer said to have been involved in 2 robberies here in Accra. One other suspect cited in the robberies was also picked up. The 3 are said to have robbed a bank customer shortly after he had emerged from a banking hall and then commandeered a taxi in which they escaped. Selinam Ampo reports the arrest was effected after the taxi driver reported the case to the Gbawe police.
It was a terrifying ordeal for this 29-year-old taxi driver who claimed he was forced at gunpoint to surrender his belongings to 3 armed robbers. Little did he know that 2 of the armed robbers were from the state security agencies, one a soldier and the other a police officer. Narrating the incident, the taxi driver, who will remain anonymous because of security reasons, said he picked 3 passengers one afternoon.
The person came out from GT Bank. The person was with a brown envelope, not knowing there is money inside 2,500. So that's what they took from the person. And then they also threatened me. When they got to where they wanted to run away, they took my money and my stuff on me. They asked me to move the car. They threatened me with gun and a knife that I should move the car. So I have to do what they asked me to do.
The suspects have been identified as Corporal Bernard Chagle, Lance Corporal Asamoah, and Crosby Ofori Danso. The taxi driver said he reported the case to the police, leading to the arrest of the gang.
When they dropped from my car, I called the police helpline 18355. So when I called, a lady picked and told me that as soon as they dropped, they cannot trace them anymore. So I should report the case to the nearest police station. So I went to Gbawe and then I reported the case to the police over there. The police said I shouldn't worry. They will help me do the investigation and then trace the people. So the police helped me to trace the people and then we got them today.
The acting regional commander, DCOP Bwedu Pipra, confirmed that the suspects are in their custody, adding the officers have been interdicted.
Through arrested a policeman and an army officer, including a civilian by name Crosby Ofori Danso, who are involved in a series of robberies in the metropolis and its surrounding areas. They are presently in custody assisting police to unearth their involvement in a series of robberies. Meanwhile, preliminary investigation indicates that both the policeman and the soldier are in court for similar charge and that they are not in active service and for now facing quasi-judicial inquiry in their various institutions.
The police say they are still investigating other criminal cases the suspect may have been involved in. Selinam Ampo for JoyNews.
Recent disturbing developments in the media landscape culminating in dropping Ghana's ranking on the World Press Freedom Index revived calls for better protection for practitioners. Apart from the assassination of Tiger IPI staff Hussein Swale, JoyNews' Manasseh Zurawuni received death threats in March this year, whilst journalists with the New Times Corporation were also physically assaulted by some police officers. The incident, according to media activists, required that media owners as well as state agencies ensure journalists are safe on the job. Patricia Roxing-Hammond reports from a forum organized by the Ghana Journalists Association and the Media Foundation for West Africa.
Over the years, Ghana has maintained an enviable reputation when it comes to press freedom, but several violations of same exist. In fact, Ghana was dropped 4 places from an initial 23rd to 27th in the recent World Press Freedom, with the killing of investigative journalist Ahmed Swale, as well as several other attacks and threats on journalists. Board member of Media Foundation for West Africa, Professor Kwame Kakari, is advocating a media war against death threats.
In this dark atmosphere of press freedom recession, it is important for us to also reflect on certain ugly developments that may exacerbate threats to journalists, press freedom, and citizens' liberties generally. We must not give in to forces who would silence the media in order that they may perpetuate criminality and the destruction of our hard-won freedoms.
More often than not, journalists are expected to go the extra mile to get stories. Ghana Journalists Association's president, Afel Moni, wants journalists to prioritize their safety instead.
The number of media attacks has climbed vertiginously in recent times, headlined by the assassination in the most tragic circumstances of Ahmed Swale of Tiger Eye fame. Impunity is largely to blame for all this. Journalists must also internalize and reflect basic guidelines on safety. Your safety should come first before the news. Also listen to your conscience and avoid areas which will imperil your lives or endanger your safety.
JoyNews reporter Latif Idris was brutalized by police at the police headquarters, a place meant to be a safe haven whilst he was covering a protest there. More than a year after that attack, he lives with a migraine and police has failed to identify the officers who attacked him. At the forum today, Director General of Public Affairs at Ghana Police Service, ACP David Oklu, said journalists should be well identified during such protests to avoid being attacked.
How do I clearly identify who a journalist is and who is not a journalist? Because these days, this is not the only signature that a journalist has. So everybody has a mobile phone. Everybody has an Android phone. Everybody has even a camera. How do I distinguish a journalist from a protester who has become violent? Key. So identification of the journalist is key. And in this protocol, it is clearly stated that if you are covering a public order or disorder event, you must identify the commander. And for this event, there is always a media liaison person. And there is a pre-briefing, except that the incident comes up spontaneously.
For her part, Professor Audrey Gajepo, Dean of School of Information and Communication Studies at the University of Ghana, believes piling pressure on media owners to take the safety of journalists more seriously is the way to go.
Are there flak jackets that have press written on in any newsroom here? So that when you go into a conflict zone or on a demonstration, they can identify you as such. We see it on TV all the time with the international journalists. Do our newsrooms have those? Do we say in our newsrooms that as a journalist, anytime you're going to an assignment, wear a name tag with our thing on? So what are the newsroom protocols and policies that relate to safety of journalists? Are there any helmets? Are there any bulletproof vests? I mean, how are our newsrooms protecting journalists? And we need to do that.
Journalists are exposed to different levels of danger on a daily basis, but the stakeholders who are meeting here today believe such discussions could go a long way to make journalism much safer. JoyNews, Patricia Roxanne Hammond, Accra.
The Ashama Municipal Assembly is rolling out an ambitious plan to end open defecation in the community by 2020. The Assembly, as part of the plan, says it is working to ensure every house in the town gets a toilet facility. Most members of the community resort to the practice as only 15% of the population have toilet facilities at home. Nana Addo joined the Media Coalition Against Open Defecation on a tour through Ashaman in our reports.
Over 3,000 people live in Ashaman. That is considered a dense population compared to the land size on which the community is situated on. Access to basic amenities is a challenge, and one of such is toilet facilities. Residents told me they do not build toilet facilities because they have no space for that. I haven't built a toilet facility in my home. It's because I don't have enough space to put it up. A tour of the vicinity by the Media Coalition Against Open Defecation revealed how most residents resort to open defecation because the public toilets are in deplorable state. This public toilet, for instance, built about 25 years ago, has not seen any major renovation, according to residents. The heap of human waste is hardly collected, yet this trader who sells right opposite the toilet tells me she has no option than to continue to inhale the terrible stench that wafts through the vicinity from the toilet daily.
15 years, but
I have been selling opposite this toilet for the past 15 years. And I must tell you, the stench is not good for me at all. But I have nowhere to go, so I continue to stay here. I will plead that they keep this toilet clean. This other resident who has chosen to be law-abiding says he has to battle with headache and cough every time he visits the toilet.
I don't want to be caught defecating in the open, so I visit the public toilet. It is in a bad state.
Despite all these challenges, the Municipal Assembly is optimistic that every household will be assisted to get a toilet facility by 2020.
We also have as our wish that ultimately 2 communities, I'm sure those areas you have visited, Newtown and Tulaku, will eventually be declared open defecation-free communities 2020.
To achieve this, every household is being urged to pay a little over 1,000 cedis to get a toilet facility like this. The Assembly will pay the remaining 3,000 cedis. So the question is, will it be possible for the 300,000 residents in Ashaman to have toilets in their homes in the next 9 months? From Ashaman, my name is Hannah.
The Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Anthony Siasare, has debunked viral social media posts alleging the new malaria vaccine is meant to make women sterile and control population explosion. Dr. Anthony Siasare, who has described the claims as shocking, urged Ghanaians to be mindful of the news they consume on social media. He assured the public that the vaccines are meant to reduce malaria mortality by 75% in 2020. 150,000 children are expected to be vaccinated over the next 2 to 3 years.
If you're not very careful and we listen to what is happening on the social media and you follow the anti-vaccine group, we'll go back and all the things that we have gained from our expanded program of immunization will be lost. Ghana, we are about 4% of malaria burden in the whole world. 2017 is from Ghana. We are among the top 10. And I'm sure if you look at the OPD, top OPD attendance in this country, it's malaria. If you look at the cost drivers in our national health insurance, it's malaria. I'm sure they say that we are doing clinical trials. We are not doing clinical trials. We've passed that stage already. Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3 have been done. They do Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3 in human beings. That's the clinical trials. And I can tell you that about 150,000 children who were involved in the clinical trials in about, I think, 7 nations. Ghana was part of it. We were doing the Stage 3 clinical trials, which from 2009 and ended in 2013 in Kintampo and Agogo. We've gone through that stage. There are publications on it. They've done the analysis and found out that if you give 4 doses of malaria vaccines to children between the ages of 6 to 12 to 2 years, you give about 40% immunity, or you prevent about 40% of severe malaria cases in these children. And 40% in severe malaria case is very significant.
Areas. What actually went into choosing those areas for this implementation?
Yeah, we use a scientific way of choosing the areas. You use the disease burden. You use the interventions being carried out in the various regions. We also use how robust the immunization systems and the logistics in the areas.
President Kwadwo has painted a gloomy picture of the state of the security agencies he inherited 2 years ago. For him, the state of affairs was not motivating enough for security agencies, especially the police, to discharge their duties effectively and professionally. Addressing a recent event at Jubilee House, the president said the conditions of service he inherited made criticism of the operation sometimes unfair. He wants the populace to appreciate the work of the police.
If you have an idea of the state of the equipment, the logistical base of our police on the 7th of January 2017, have an idea of the logistical base of our armed forces. What can I say? I think you have to pause before you go in for any significant condemnation of what we have done. We made with an essentially zero treasury that was left to us. Have had to use our brains and contacts and all kinds of things, even to do the limited empowerment that you've heard about, that you read about, police being given vehicles, all of these things that have been done in these 2 years. Because to me, it's absolutely critical that people who are prepared to give their life for the defense of the society, whether as policemen or as soldiers, it's our duty to make sure that they have all the equipment, all the logistical capacity that they require to be able to carry out their duties. They're doing so that we can go to bed at night and feel secure. And such people should be given the maximum encouragement in terms of their morale and their capacity to work. So I'm all for it. But unfortunately, we don't have all the money that we need in Ghana. So that there are, you have situations where police stations in many parts of the country still do not have vehicles. They don't have vehicles to work with. And how are you going to deal with crime if things are happening in your jurisdiction and you can't get at it?
Yaba said, despite the limited resources, the police has no right to trample on the rights of anyone. He indicated ongoing plans to retool all the security agencies.
Are being made. I think that you'll find that as far as equipping and dealing with the morale and the numbers, the United Nations tells us that the equilibrium, optimum number of policemen they should have in any society is 1 to 500. The Ghanaian equation is 1 to 900, nearly double that. So even at the level of the numbers of personnel, we don't have it. That's why we committed ourselves in the initial phase to raise 4,000 more police people so that we can begin to bridge that gap a little. So there's a whole bundle of things that have to be done. They are being done as we speak now. The recruitment and the expansion of the police service is ongoing. The enhanced training is ongoing. The empowerment, the logistical empowerment is ongoing. And we're hoping that when all of this comes to a conclusion, we will then have a police service that is capable of dealing with crime effectively, efficiently, and also professionally.
Leaders of Zongo communities in Kumasi are calling for intensified crackdown on illicit drug peddling and use in order to stamp out youth violence. President of the Council of Zongo Chiefs in the Ashanti region observes parenting failures accounts for the trend. He believes dedicating the upcoming Ramadan months to pray for God's mercies through Quranic recitals and teaching may be a significant way of finding lasting solution to the persistent violence involving Zongo youth. Nana Addo has more in the following report.
Two youth groups affiliated to National Democratic Congress clashed at party office in Kumasi early this year. A member of party militia group, the Hawks, shot and killed a rival group colleague, while another was left seriously wounded.
One just pulled out a gun. We were looking at him. He started firing, got to this young man, fired him, gunned him down, left, came back. Within some few minutes, and pump additional 3 bullets in his stomach. It's pathetic. It's something that I cannot even fathom. After doing this, he went straight to the other guy, and the other guy was just begging him to stop. But then he has already shot him, and he pumped additional bullets on him.
Almost all members from the two groups are from the Zongos and have known each other over time. The clashes between rival factions gives cause for worry. Naba Musa Akabonga is chief of Frafra community and president of the Council of Zongo Chiefs in Ashanti region. He believes physical efforts of law enforcers must be augmented with spiritual intervention for the desired result.
If we are giving them good training, would they behave the way they are behaving? I think the answer is no. Parents in the Zongo communities, a good number of us are not responsible. We do not associate much with our children. The most painful aspect of it is that the Quran teaches us, the Muslims, how to handle our children, our family, our wives, our parents, our friends, our associates. Everything is in the Quran. It looks as if they patronize intake of drugs too much. And the question here is, who are the importers of the drugs? Our children don't go outside to go and import drugs. It is parents, people who have children, women who have husbands and children, men who have wives and children. What the government should do to help the youth is to be strict on the importers of illegal drugs. Influence of money, like the case of the politicians. They use money. And if you hear the amount that sometimes some of them receive, it's insulting.
Whether or not troublemakers will heed admonition from parents will continue to agitate the minds of peace-loving and well-meaning citizens. Naba Akabonga shares his opinion.
A child is a child. You can be 100 years old. If your parents are around, you are still their child. It is the responsibility of parents to take care of their children. In Islam, we don't have small child and big child. Child is child. So it is our responsibility to control them.
Nana Addo reporting.
And that's it for the bulletin. But as we keep on telling you, please be mindful of the things you forward. If you can't verify them, you don't have to forward them. That's it. I'm Israel. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good night.